Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and there's some nonsense contained in a new Forbes article. Not that the Forbes author so much did anything wrong, but more so just the content from somebody that the writer spoke with. I first came across this thanks to Daily Hodl. There's an article that they put out today titled, XRP likely to extend losses after new Ripple revelations, says BitBull Capital CEO, and it was in reference to what was covered in this piece, which I've now pulled up on the screen here from Forbes. This one's titled, XRP falls to lowest since 2017 as crypto market sees red. And ultimately, if the CEO gets it, I'll share with you the specifics, but he's ultimately getting to his point, being that XRP likely not going to be in such hot shape price-wise, thanks to a revelation to a rather key Ripple partner that utilizes on-demand liquidity and thus XRP as a bridge currency. So I'm going to straighten this all out. Man, they put all these messes up on the Webernets, and then Moon Lambo got to fix everything. It's a hard job, guys. It's a hard job. Other than that, I've got some tweets from the XRP community, and I would like to share this story also. It's from Cointelegraph. U.S. SEC imposes $250,000 penalty, requires return of up to $13 million for unregistered ICO. So, laying the smack down. But before we go any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead, do the right thing, subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. You know in your heart it is the right path. So XRP fell sharply today, suffering greater losses than other major digital currencies and hitting its lowest in more than 2 years. Now, I certainly do disagree with that particular sentence. The market pretty well moved down in tandem. That's let me scroll down a little bit. I don't want to go through this whole thing here. I kind of want to get to the meat of it. Here we go. So here we go. Here's a quote. Actually, this is a fun one, too, for Maddie Greenspan. The entire crypto market seems to be in a bit of a slump at the moment, said Maddie Greenspan, founder of the newsletter Quantum Economics. Now, that's more reasonable. I think he's still at the Toro, too, anyway. The losses in XRP are more likely a reflection of that than anything else at this time, he stated. So, there you go. However, some analysts offered a different perspective, claiming XRP's decline accelerated as markets responded to news that neither Ripple partner MoneyGram nor its CEO Alex Holmes hold the digital token. And I talked about this just yesterday, and of course, there are now articles covering this as if this is some sort of negative. CNN aired an interview conducted with Holmes during which he revealed this information. Now, take a look at this. This is where we get to what I consider to be the most fun part. This is a quote from Joe DePascal, CEO of cryptocurrency hedge fund manager BitBull Capital. Here's what he said. XRP has been historically very sensitive to adoption-related news pertaining to banking and money services partners, since they represent the biggest clientele for Ripple services. That could not be, I gotta tell you, that could not be further from the freaking truth. Let's just pull up the chart for today. And in this video, it's not going to be about price. That's not what this is. Not entirely. I'm really mostly busting FUD right here. But I am going to make a separate video. There's a lot of going on in terms of where people think the market's going. I'll make a video about that later. But I just want to cite this still. So I did pull up Live Coin Watch. Look at the top 10 cryptocurrencies other than Tezos and Tether. All the charts look almost exactly the damn same. That flat out. And so in terms of what's going on with the price of XRP, and of course this is the weekly chart that you can see on the right of your screen here. That's just the weekly. But that's almost always what it looks like. And so it's talking about historically very sensitive, XRP's been very sensitive to adoption-related news. No. Look, let me parse this out a little bit, about my thoughts on this. So, absolutely, the fundamentals of XRP, the fact that there is adoption around this particular cryptocurrency, that's the reason that XRP for the past 5 years, 6 years, whatever it's been, maybe 6 years, it's been in the top 5 cryptocurrencies. It's never dropped below that. There's a reason for that, okay? And so while most of the buying and selling in the crypto asset class really is just purely speculative, mostly emotional buying and selling, FOMOing in and then panic selling at times, saw a lot of that over the last couple days, that's mostly what it is. But there are people out there like myself, and perhaps you if you're listening to this channel, because this is an XRP-centric channel, of course, that are here for the long haul and understand this. And so there are plenty of long-term holders. That results in XRP maintaining its place towards the top of the list of cryptocurrencies in terms of market cap. So there is some of that. So news, okay, technically, yes, it matters, but it's still not largely what's driving the market. What's driving the market is the price action of Bitcoin flat out. You can have the most bullish news out there, and there, with rare exception, it doesn't do anything positive for the price of XRP in terms of upward price movement. But what it does is it prevents the price from going lower. So that's why I said, and again, there's a reason that XRP is number 3 in terms of market cap. So this could not be more incorrect. And here's another one now. In light of this, the statement from MoneyGram has dealt a big blow to XRP's already weak position, especially since it was believed Ripple and MoneyGram would have a close relationship due to the former's investment in the latter, he stated. Now, with Bitcoin's price also experiencing downward pressure, we expect XRP to slide further due to this news, which has not happened and won't happen. It won't, not because of money. Well, that's completely nonsensical. And in fact, if you look at the chart, I'm not going to pull it out. I guess I don't really need it for the sake of this video, but I will tell you, in terms of the price action that they're discussing here, Bitcoin dropped and then XRP dropped. It's not that this interview broke with MoneyGram CEO Alex Holmes and then the price of XRP went down. No, market's not reacting to it. This is just completely nonsensical. It's a silly point of view to have. And maybe for the Forbes audience that isn't as educated on this, they could read it and just buy into it like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Well, no, I think we're a little bit more in the know here as it pertains to this stuff. But it is always fascinating. It's nothing personal against the guy. It's just that he sure has an opinion based on nothing, right? That's what it seems like to me, right? And so take a look at this. Here we go. I just wanted to pull this up. So here's a Bitcoin maximalist named Joe Saz. Usually has come across as a nice guy. This isn't exactly the most adult of tweets. He wrote, haha, dumb effing idiots. And then he's got a little screen grab here with this sentence. I don't know what it's from, but it's some sort of article. It states, MoneyGram CEO Alex Holmes reveals that his company instantly sells all XRP it receives due to regulatory issues. So let's go ahead and squash this. So Galgatron responded to Joe Saz. And by the way, if you highlight, here I'm just going to highlight this, you can see on his Twitter account here, he writes, this is how he describes himself, analyst, Bitcoin maximalist. So that kind of tells you the ideology behind this. But anyway, so Galgatron responded, and here's what he wrote. That's how on-demand liquidity, formerly XRapid, works, Joe. It allows companies to avoid the regulatory issues with holding customer funds in an asset with volatility risk. This isn't some statement of dismissal by the CEO. It's actually describing how the process works. And that's the other reason that I wanted to go ahead and talk about how nonsensical the opinions shared within this Forbes article are. This guy has this opinion, didn't even know that means that this all is operating as intended. And so MoneyGram CEO Alex Holmes also cited that if they ever have any XRP in their possession, they will immediately sell it, and I'm still not completely sure what they mean by that, unless he means, and so I had a little bit more time to think about that, because I don't know other situations that would result in them holding XRP, unless you're talking about some sort of XRP tip-out thing to MoneyGram. I don't know. I don't think that's what he's referencing, but I don't know what else it would be. So maybe he just was functionally thinking about how on-demand liquidity works via RippleNet, because technically they're not having to take possession of XRP. Consider that with on-demand liquidity, it uses an efficient path-seeking algorithm to route payments and settlement, right? And so you can imagine that if there's a payment going through on-demand liquidity via Ripple, and then, of course, there's liquidity pools in between, well, as far as the buying and selling of the XRP, unless he technically meant that they're sending money to the exchange to get the XRP, which then is transferred to another exchange, and then, there's a receiving it in a different country. If he's talking about like MoneyGram's money actually going to the cryptocurrency exchange, maybe that's what he was talking about. In that particular case, though, it's not that MoneyGram's having to take possession of the XRP in some sort of wallet that they set up. Rather, the way these cryptocurrency exchanges work is they typically have one address that's a shared address, and you may have noticed if you're trading XRP or hold XRP on an exchange that you have a destination tag, and that's because you have a shared address, and then the destination tag is your additional description of the address, like your little part of that address, if I can word it like that. I hope that makes sense. And so. In that sense, it's not even their wallet. So from a technical perspective, regulatory perspective, perhaps that's what makes this all reasonable for MoneyGram to participate in, is because they're not actually technically holding it. If they meant something else by that, I don't know. Really, frankly, I could use some clarity on what he meant by that. This is just me having had some time to think through it a little bit further. But of course, they're not going to. There's no reason for them to have XRP on the books and have exposure to the volatility when there are liquidity providers out there that are willing to do that and make all of this possible. So to me, it's just a whole silly thing. And then Joe Saz responded to Galgatron, and he wrote, "Sells all XRP, they dump their bags, dude." And then Galgatron responded again with, "There's no bags. They're using on-demand liquidity," meaning they start with no XRP, they then buy XRP, send it, then sell it on the receiving side to get the foreign cash out so they can complete the payment to the customer. It's the future of cross-border payments. And then again, that's what Galgatron wrote, which is absolutely spot on. So who knows, but I had to bust this. This is completely silly, but I suspected there would be articles along these lines, and sure enough, here we are. Here's a tweet from BG Araji, who wrote this: "MoneyGram is literally and legally using XRP internationally instantly without holding any money with a third party. I can't even give my brother Bitcoin without tying up money for 45 minutes. He writes, 2020 is right around the corner. And I appreciate the sentiment, so I thought I'd just go ahead and share that. It just came across in my Twitter feed. All right, now here's a piece from Cointelegraph. U.S. SEC imposes $250,000 penalty, requires return of up to $13 million for unregistered ICO. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has reached a settlement with New York-based startup Blockchain of Things, Inc., BCOT, for conducting an unregistered initial coin offering, ICO. On December 18th, the SEC announced in a press release that the charges were settled in the form of an order that requires BCOT to cease and desist from committing any violation of the registration provisions of the federal securities laws. The blockchain company also agreed to pay a $250,000 penalty without admitting or denying the findings. According to the SEC's order, BCOT raised nearly $13 million while conducting an unregistered ICO to develop and implement a blockchain-based platform that allowed for third-party developers to build applications for message transmission, digital asset generation, and digital asset transfer. And so I thought I'd utilize this story as another opportunity to point out that for some reason, I'll tell you what, if Ripple's engaging in some sort of securities no-no situation with XRP, well, they're not even getting a timeout. The SEC sure is just turning a blind eye to Ripple if that's the case. Well, that's a silly concept, of course, though. Of course, Ripple, XRP is not a security. Ripple's not selling any securities. It's completely nonsensical. But I just like to point these out as these stories come along, because the SEC is going after entities that are doing things that they should not do. There's a reason they're not going after Ripple. Think about it. But anyway, that's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!